In 1838, Judge Jacob Burnett of Cincinnati, Ohio, wrote about the Odawa, the Maumee, Blanchard's Fork, and Auglaize rivers of northwest Ohio. He stated, "My yearly trips to Detroit from 1796 to 1802 made it necessary to pass through some of their towns and convenient to visit many of them in their villages, hunting camps, and forming personal acquaintance with their distinguished chiefs. I have eaten and slept in their towns and partaken of their hospitality, which had no limit but that of their means. Flourishing towns and cities filled with enterprising white men and cultivated farms covered the ground which 30 years before was the property and the home of the independent natives of the forest. The corrupting influence of their intercourse with the whites had just begun and had made but little progress. They were unapprised of the great disparity of numbers and strength between them and us, nor were they aware of the corrupting influence of our intercourse with them. But in a few years after the treaty, their fatal delusion vanished, and their last hope sunk in despair. I could not but ask myself, where is the multitude of red people whom I formerly saw there? Where were the chiefs and their families who welcomed me and my companions to their cabins?" The author of this video presentation would like to express his sincere gratitude to the following individuals: Professor David M. Stuthers, deceased, formerly of the University of Toledo, Toledo, Ohio, directed the 1977 and the 1988 excavations of the Fry site, 33Lu165. Field supervisors were Patrick M. Tucker, Thomas Barris, David First, and William Rudder. Dr. Richard Fry gave permission to excavate 33Lu165 and conduct survey of the floodplain area. The excavation crew consisted of Kimberly Snyder Pauloff, Anna Andrew, Nancy Andrew, Paula Steiner, Julianne Howard, Ruth Lynch, Ray Crane, Fred Kingsley, Tim McHugh, Bob Dibble, Bob Lazinski, Mark Faust, Bill Davis, Lisa Goldman, Janet Raniel, Paula Glover, Dennis Strath, John Walters, Paul Bassick, Mike Typer, Ellen Forrester, Steve Baker, Jeff Eversman, and Gary Smith. Laboratory work on the artifacts were performed by Patrick M. Tucker, Ruth Lynch, Fred Kingsley, Ruth Boshin, and Gary Smith under the supervision of the director. Controlled surface survey of the floodplain area north and south of 33Lu165 between 1981 and 1983 was supervised by Patrick Steiner, Robert Sufer, Frank Jonoff, and Frank Huntley using test pits at metered intervals with the aid of a metal detector. Survey crews consisted mostly of members of the Toledo Area Aboriginal Research Society. Crew members were Paula Steiner, Robert Asmus, Eleanor Crosby, Shirley Stansley, Chris Workman, John Sinkovic, Philip Skeldon, Don Cook, Bill Hood, Vicki Freese, Janice Del Castillo, Ken Sharp, Doug Roos, Patricia Croninger, Mary Steiner, Joanne Fozinski, Kathy Sund, Howard Simon, John Gura, Tracy Nichols, Lester Nichols, Bob Levin, Keith Steiner, and John Simon. The 1988 excavations at 33Lu165 were also directed by David M. Stuthers with the assistance of field supervisors Timothy Abel and Susan Bechtel. The field crew consisted of Bill Heisinger, Colleen Phillips, Jennifer Warnock, Mike Reyes, Greg Messinger, Frank Jonoff, Wellington Kamala, and Susan Conway. The field crew also performed laboratory work on the artifacts under the guidance of the director and field supervisors. In this 1996 photograph, the Odawa tribe of Oklahoma, with headquarters in Miami, Oklahoma, are the descendants of the Odawa, the Maumee, Blanchard's Fork, and Auglaize rivers in northwest Ohio. In this photograph, from left to right, front row, are Lucian Angelo, Robert F. Bauman, Larry Angelo, second chief of the Odawa tribe of Oklahoma and tribal historian, Back row, left to right, is Rhonda Dixon, now the tribal historian and librarian of Ottawa tribal records today, and her mother, Eileen Dixon. The Angelos and Dixons are descendants of Pontiac, the great Ottawa war chief of the 18th century. Otusa, also known as Tisan, was the son of Pontiac. Wasanaket and Nantano were the sons of Otusa. Wasanaket was the ancestor of the Kings, and Nantano the ancestor of the Dixons. The Wind and Jennison families are blood descendants of Pontiac through his brother Chenawabe. Kenawabe, son of Chenawabe, resided on the lower Maumee River and married Chiqua or Jane King Phelps. Robert Bauman, 1923 to 2006, passed away on July 13, 2006 in Clarkdale, Arizona. Bob was a lawyer, historian, and expert witness for the Oklahoma-Ottawa during the Indian Claims Commission trials from 1950 to 1973. During Bob's latter years, he retired from law to become an evangelist with the Saints Gathered with the Lord Jesus Christ, working on the Havasupai Indian Reservation near Sedona, Arizona. In this slide, lower left, is Lewis and Catherine King, who were the parents of Joseph Badger King, 1823 to 1915, shown in the upper left. Joseph was born on the Maumee River and removed to Kansas Territory in 1832 and Oklahoma Territory in 1867, where he was made chief of the Ottawa tribe of Oklahoma. Jane King, in the upper left to the right, born 1766, died 1886, known as Chiqua, was Queen of the Ottawa and a medicine woman. She removed with her brother Lewis King in 1812 from the Detroit area to the Maumee River. Victoria Cataract, shown to the right seated, with cousin from Walpole Island, Canada, circa 1900, was the last living Chippewa or Ojibwa in Ottawa County, Ohio, until her death in 1915. Her grandfather was a Chippewa chief. Her father died when she was young, and her mother remarried to a brother of Peter Navarre, the famous War of 1812 scout. Her husband was half French, leaving her with 2 children. She wove and sold baskets for a living. She lived in a cabin near the entrance to the Chippewa Golf Course on State Route 579. She made annual trips to Walpole Island to visit her cousin, walking the round trip. 33Lu165 was discovered in the spring of 1977 on the north bank of the Maumee River on the property of Dr. Richard Fry. Spring flooding exposed an eroded, shallow, grave depression of a Native American burial with trade silver found by Philip Skeldon, a 14-year-old boy. Archaeological excavations revealed a prehistoric late Young Phase Western Basin Tradition fishing station, subsequently named Petrie 33Lu218, radiocarbon dated to CE 1120, and a Native American cabin structure and animal compound 33Lu165, dated CE 1814 to 1832. 33Lu165 is located at north 41 degrees 35 minutes 55 seconds latitude and west 83 degrees 35 minutes 36 seconds longitude on the U.S. Geological Survey 7.5-minute quadrangle, Rossford, Ohio, 1983 map. The site rests on the alluvial floodplain that borders the north bank of the Maumee River and extends inland from the river's edge west to approximately 130 meters to a 40-meter high terrace. To the north of the site is Delaware Island. To the east is Grassy Island. To the southwest is the Toledo Country Club. And to the west is the Fry House on River Road, now owned by other occupants. This slide shows a close-up aerial view of 33Lu165 on the Fry property. The 1816 plat map of Township 3, U.S. 12-mile square reserve on the Miami of Lake Erie shows River Lot 16 outlined in red, where 33Lu165 was located. Marshall Key of Jefferson County, Kentucky, purchased the lot in full, which contained 201.25 acres for $402.50 on May 1st, 1823. Key never occupied River Lot 16. The 1977 and 1988 excavation plan of 33Lu165 is shown in this slide. A is the 1977 excavations, B the 1988 excavations, and C the Odawa bark burial with trade goods salvaged in 1977. The bark burial with trade silver located at North 35.5 and East 05 on the excavation plan. The pit or grave depression was rectangular in shape and measured approximately 3.4 meters in length by 2.3 meters in width. A human skeleton of an unsexed, probably male, subadult between the ages of 10 and 11 years was interred in the shallow earthen grave depression. The human remains were laid to rest in an extended supine position in a west to east orientation in the ground. The teeth did not display any form of dental pathology and were free of carious lesions. Sex of the skeleton could not be determined due to erosion of bone and missing fragments of the pelvis, particularly the pubic arch. A careful screening and flotation of the burial soil at this location revealed additional artifacts. This was probably a bark burial, as no coffin hardware was found. The Odawa used both coffin and bark burials as preferred means of interment. Bark burials consisted of a lining of tree bark in the grave depression upon which the deceased body was placed before being covered up with dirt. Trade goods consisted of silver brooches, armbands, silver gorgets, a tubular glass seed bead necklace, and a recycled knife. This slide shows a close-up of the bark burial trade goods. A, 2 silver armbands. B, a crescent-shaped or half-moon gorget. C, 5 circular-shaped silver brooches. D, recycled iron knife, which consisted of a pistol barrel and a knife blade jammed into the barrel with a stone. And E, 165 indigo, dark blue, tubular glass seed beads. Robert Cruikshank, a silversmith, Boston and Montreal, from 1767 to 1809. Cruikshank also operated a large hardware business in Montreal. He had as many as 5 apprentices devoting much of their time to fashioning trade silver. A similar design on 33Lu165 gorget was found in grave 18 of an Indian cemetery on Old Birch Island, Ontario, Canada, estimated to date CE 1780 to 1800. Silver gorgets worn by British and French officers as decorative vestiges of armor were given to Indian war chiefs. These official gorgets were crescent-shaped and bore the insignia of the monarch. Accompanied by armbands, they were valued by the Indians as a mark of rank and prestige. War leaders thus decorated were given an officer's commission with the rank of captain, as well as captain's pay. The commission entitled the officer to military courtesy when in the field with the regular troops and to an honor guard when he visited a fort. Captain Joseph Brant, whose Mohawk name was Thayendanegea, was a prominent gorget captain in the British Army. The British Royal coat of arms on the silver armband is not the same as the coat of arms used by Great Britain from CE 1814 to 1837 that was used on official British government documents. After 1837, the inner shield was dropped. The bark burial is not part of the 33Lu165 occupation. It is an earlier Odawa burial. The inscription on the 33Lu165 armband reads, Dieu est mon droit, that is, God in my right. Similar armbands of the 33Lu165 burial were manufactured by Peter, Ann, and William Bateman of London in the late 18th century. From the National Museum of Man, Ottawa, Canada. In a letter from Adamar St. Martin, Miamis or Maumee River, to Paul Gemelin of Vincennes, Indiana, June 20th, 1788, he lists 640 gross of large pins, 390 small pins, 122 wrist bracelets, 5 large double crosses, 1 large single cross, 6 medium double crosses, 2 earrings, 4 large pins, and 3 silver cores. This is from a letter in the LaSalle collection of the Indiana State Library in Lafayette, Indiana. These photographs are from Area 2 excavations, that is the cabin area. A is a general view looking southeast. B, excavations of the cabin and related features. C, a bank cut showing the exposed floodplain stratigraphy. And a late young phase CE 1100 to 1200 Western Basin tradition hearth pointed to by Patrick Steiner. And D, a close-up view of the cabin excavations. Units 1 through 6 revealed the remains of a small rectangular cabin structure that measured 2.4 by 2 meters or 8 by 6.5 feet with associated material, culture, fauna, and flora remains of a single occupational episode dating to the early 19th century. The floor of the cabin was flat and sunk 22 to 27 centimeters into hard, sterile, yellow-brown clay subsoil. A variety of European and native manufactured artifacts were found in situ on the floor of the cabin. See the circled numbers on the floor plan legend. The cabin walls at surface level were straight-sided, forming a 90-degree angle with the floor. No mortar or chinking was found, suggesting use of mortar brick thatching between the logs or wood frame that formed the superstructure of the cabin. Wood preservation was excellent, with many pieces found still attached to metal objects. An iron axe head with a wooden handle and several small tanged cut brass projectile points with at least one with a portion of its wooden shaft intact were recovered are notable examples. 2 stone hearths designated H1 and H3 were found in situ and undisturbed on the floor of the cabin. The use of hearths set in a clay floor indicate the cabin lacked wooden floorboards. Since historical documents have not yet been located for the site and structure, if they exist, diagnostic artifacts from features were used to determine the terminus ante quem and terminus post quem dates of this historic occupation. In the bottom of hearth 3 or H3, a silver dime or 10-cent piece was found with the date of 1814 on the obverse side of the coin. This artifact was used to establish the terminus ante quem or date before which the occupation could not have existed. The terminus post quem or date after which the occupation could not have existed was established by the latest decorative type of refined white earthenware ceramics present in the hearth features and on the floor of the cabin. The author does not believe that time lag, the time elapsed from the date of manufacture in England to being deposited in the occupation, was great or significant. Excavation of Area 2, that is the cabin structure, in this photograph from top left to lower right, is Unit 2, Hearth 2, which is outside the cabin, Unit 1, Hearth 1, inside the cabin, bulk wall 1-3, axe head with a wooden handle, and Unit 7, hearth 4 outside the cabin. Continuing with excavations of area 2, the cabin structure, these photographs from top left to lower right are Unit 1 west wall profile being measured and graphed, Unit 1 west wall profile completed, Unit 1 flotation of hearth features for fauna and floor remains, and stratigraphic profile of the west wall of the cabin structure showing hearth 3 inside and hearth 2 outside. In this slide, A from upper left to lower right, you have blue scalloped shell-edged plate, hand-painted dark brown saucer, a dipped mocha brown and black barrel pitcher, transfer printed dark brown bowl, a hand-painted polychrome sherds, and a blue transfer printed plate with rural cottage scene and a drilled hole for being recycled as a pendant. In B, from upper left to lower right, is a dark blue monochrome hand-painted teacup, a dark blue transfer printed saucer with rose border and trailing convolvulus, a blue scalloped and unscalloped edged plates, dark blue hand-painted bowl, and dark blue transfer printed vegetable dish. In C, from upper left to lower right, is a hand-painted cup and saucer, ribbed redware pitcher handle, blue floral transprinted cup handle, a dipped mocha bowl, and black glazed redware porringer. In D, from upper left to lower right, are stemmed cut brass projectile point with resin or tar-like adhesive on the wooden shaft splinters still adhering to the point, and a perforated shell bead, brass and pewter buttons, white clay pipe stem, and chert gun flints. In a letter from Isaac Van Tassel, the Ebenezer Mission, Maumee, Ohio, to the Secretary of the Board of the United Foreign Missionary Society in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, dated August 16, 1824, he states that last spring, those at the mouth of the river applied to their agent for plows and farming utensils to cultivate their land. Newash, also known as Nawash, who lives on the opposite side of the river with some of our assistance, has built him a house in which he says he intends to live because hunting is poor and he is becoming so old that he cannot hunt. Mr. Hunt, one of the principal traders, informed me that the trade of the Indians has greatly changed during the past year. They now purchase more valuable and durable articles, and some of them purchase tea, table, furniture, and other accessories. In this slide, you have a ladle handle recycled into a knife, B, a blade of black blue or Dover flint pistol gun flint, C to E, brass buttons, F, brass fragment, G, hand-wrought iron nail, H, cut brass projectile point, I to K, pewter buttons, L, iron lock key, M, an iron fish hook, N, the U.S. Liberty Head 1814 dime, O, a brass jaw harp, and to the right you have the enlargement of the U.S. 1814 dime with perforated hole for suspension of as a recycled pendant around the neck. Left side artifacts are A, an iron spoon, B, iron hammer with part of the wooden shaft preserved within the socket, C, iron hand-wrought nail, D, iron spikes, E, iron tongs, F, iron machine cut nails, G, iron hammer, H, iron handles of a bullet mold for the manufacture of musket balls, and I, iron musket wrench. Right side artifacts are A, brass kettle base fragment, B, iron scissors, C, hand-wrought iron nails, D, brass wire, E, iron rat tail knife blade, handle broken off, and F, an iron ridged bayonet segment. Here in this slide is A, two-tine fork with this incised bone handle, B, awls with bone handles, C, incised bone handle to a fork or a knife, and D, an iron axe head with a portion of the wooden shaft attached. The analysis of faunal remains was performed by Heather Nicole, the National Museum of Canada, Ottawa. 2,242 bone fragments were identified, consisting of 955 fish, 771 mammal, 463 bird, 49 mollusk, and 4 reptiles, comprising 32 species in all. 2 coprolites were identified by Thomas Stearns of Texas A&M University College Station that are probably canine or dog. Survey of the floodplain area was conducted from 1981 to 1983. The area measured approximately 12,200 square meters. A combination of surface collection from 1 by 1 meter test units with metal detector finds was used to assess the area. The same central datum point used in the 1977 excavations of the cabin structure was used for the survey. The grid system was oriented 25 degrees east of magnetic north to align the survey data with grid north used on the USGS topographical map for the area. The survey crews used lettered transects running from north and south with intervals of 5 meters between transects and data points along each transect for test units and surface collection of artifacts. The transect data were integrated into the Cartesian grid system used for the 1977 test excavations. A total of 488 units, that is 5 by 5 meters each, were mapped for the area, with 151 of these unit surface collected with the aid of a metal detector or tested using 30 by 30 centimeter excavation units. No features were encountered. A total of 1,844 artifacts were recovered during the survey. Test units produced 1,755 artifacts, and surface collection with the aid of the metal detector yielded 89 artifacts. Artifacts consisted of iron, brass, copper, lead, steel, chipped stone debitage, refined white glazed earthenware ceramics, glass, charcoal, burnt animal bone, grit-tempered cord mark, vase, dentate stamped pottery, 1 rim and 156 body and base sherds, fish bone, a few pieces of brick, and 2 fragments of human bone, 1 radius and 1 ulna. A density distribution of the artifacts recovered was mapped by grid unit with diagnostic artifacts indicated by numbers. The pattern of artifact distribution shows that the highest density occurred near the bank of the Maumee River, and the lowest density was from units near the base of the bluff. Units north and west of 16 North 00 East were practically devoid of any artifacts. Artifacts recovered from the surface survey units consisted of whiteware plates, cups, bowls, and saucers, a salve or ointment jar, stoneware jugs, a bowl, a flower pot, a cheese container, a porcelain figurine and vase, a Rockingham glazed crock, coarse earthenware flower pots, plaster, a glass soft drink bottle, cold cream jar, a piece of unidentified magelica, and bone china. Left is the top view and cross sections of fence post hole features in the St. Clair sandy clay loam soil excavated during the 1988 field season. Right is a photo and a diagram of a prehistoric flex child burial, feature 14, in a circular shaped pit measuring 1.1 by 1.3 meters and 40 centimeters in depth in Unit 3, which was a 5 by 5 meter unit. This pit was found directly below feature 13 a fence line post hole. The bottom of the square-shaped, rock-filled post hole contained the proximal end of a human tibia bone and a pelvic fragment, which indicated the emplacement of the post was intrusive, having cut into the upper level of the burial. This post hole was part of the animal compound fence of the later Odawa occupation at the site. The child was interred in a flexed position, aged between 4 and 6 years, based on dentition, but unsexed due to immaturity. Buried with the child was a grit-tempered rim shirt of an incomplete young phase Western Basin tradition clay pot, a groundstone celt, a large mollusk shell, and a mollusk shell embedded in the wall of the pit feature. The Odawa cabin excavated was rectangular in shape and measured 2.4 by 2.0 meters or 8.0 by 6.5 feet with a door and at least one window. The small size of the structure and its dimensions suggest it was more of a shack than a cabin in comparison to Euro-American structures of the same time period. The superstructure of the cabin was made of either hewn or unhewn logs or wooden planks. The floor was flat and sunk 0.2 by 0.3 meters into hard, sterile clay subsoil. 2 interior stone hearths were present on the floor. Stone hearths set into a clay floor suggest that the cabin lacked wooden floorboards. The nails and spikes recovered from the cabin fill suggest that they were used in the construction of the walls and the base of the structure or roof, but not the floor. The walls were straight-sided with a doorway located on the inland side towards the west end of the structure. Bark or mud thatching was probably used since mortar or limestone chinking was not found on the floor or recovered in the cultural materials excavated. The roof of the cabin must have been made of bark, thatch, or wood poles with at least one hole set in the roof for the escape of smoke and carbon dioxide from the hearths. 2 stone hearths were located immediately outside the foundation of the cabin, one near the river or east end of the structure, and the other on the inland side, west end of the structure. A pit feature also lay outside of the cabin on the inland side, which functioned as a trash or refuse pit for food processing and tool maintenance activities within the cabin or shack. The animal pen or compound was excavated southwest of the shack or cabin and found to be related or associated with the domestic structure by the recovery of similar refined white earthenware ceramics found within the fill of the unlined, circular, and rock-lined square post holes that formed the pattern of the fence. The fence was probably a wooden split rail type used for raising domestic pigs, sheep, and cattle, whose remains were recovered from the cabin or shack excavated in 1977. Indians who lived in log cabins or wood frame structures with clapboard walls, that is, shacks, was not an uncommon occurrence during the late 18th and early 19th centuries. Indians of the local area adopted white methods of living early in the 19th century. In May of 1807, Governor William Hall of the Michigan Territory at Detroit wrote Henry Dearborn, U.S. Secretary of State in Washington City, and stated that the Indians are now building comfortable houses for themselves, and they have asked for windows which Hall promised to furnish them for those who would build good houses. In 1801, Captain Blue Jacket, a mixed-blood Indian of Shawnee descent, and his wife lived in a wood cabin near Brownstown, now Gibraltar, Michigan, a Wyandot Indian village at the outlet of the Detroit River into Lake Erie, only 38 miles north of 33Lu165. Captain Blue Jacket's wood cabin was furnished with mattress, bedding and blankets, furniture, silver spoons, and crockery equal to that of white people. The United States Indian Factory at Sandusky, Ohio, listed in its inventory for trade with the Indians mostly Indians of Wyandotte, Seneca, and Delaware heritage. In 1812, Queensware dishes. In 1821, the town or village of Maumee, Ohio, contained 40 buildings with a population of about 300 white settlers. It had a post office, several storehouses, several hydraulic works. The same year, Henry Rowe Schoolcraft, on his passage up the Maumee River, remarked that the country was a novel intermixture of barbarity and refinement, containing substantial farmhouses and rude log cabins intermixed with Indian wigwams, fields of grain, and forests of tall trees.